Hi, and welcome to the She's the Boss show, the show that is all about female founders and women doing extraordinary things in business. And I can't wait to introduce my next guest. Boy, oh boy, is she amazing. So Sally Dominguez is a futurist and specialises in an innovation strategist. She's the author of Epic Resilience, which I'm going to ask her about because it's just come out. She's the creator of the adventurous thinking strategy. She's won more than 7 international design awards. She's an ex-judge for the new Inventors on the ABC, which was a show that was on for years. And she's an inventor herself of the Nest High Chair, which has won gazillions of awards, and the Rainwater HOG, which has also won gazillions of awards. So welcome, Sally.
Thanks, Jules. I like the gazillions of awards. That makes me feel, a bit plentiful, a bit abundant.
Well, there you have, my God, so many awards. So how about you tell everybody what you're doing now, and just so that we can get started, and I'm dying to hear your entrepreneurial journey, but what are you up to at the moment?
Okay, so it's a funny thing. So right now we're in this disruptive age and everything's about convergence. So with that in mind, I'm working on a couple of convergence projects. I'm developing a corporate epic resilience strategy that brings inclusion and innovation together. I'm working.
Oh, brilliant!
I'm working on a new type of vehicle. We're calling it Rome, RHOME, with a UK design studio, which is a combo of tiny house and vehicle, where you can kind of bank the accommodation. So it's the idea that if people are nomadic workers from now on, why do you need to have a fixed place to live? So that and a whole system around that. And then
hang on. Okay, so no, go back to womb though. That sounds incredible. God, yes. I want one. So what is it? It's going to be. Is it going to have like podcast studios and internet
it's
and
so
that
cool.
kind of thing?
So it's a system.
It's
available. A system that you can basically bank your living module into a system that's across the country, whichever country it might be, and that where you bank it in these kind of pods, you have your water, you have plant-based food, you have solar energy, and it's very it's an off-grid kind of settlement with gyms and co-working spaces and stuff. But the idea is that the vehicle is an electric vehicle, ultimately hydrogen, which is we'll talk about that, but the idea is you can be on the road with this thing, but it's also like a miniature. It's not like a massive camper van. It's a little miniature thing that you can then bank the back part into a fixed private bathroom structure and kind of dwell in a settlement for like up to 4 months and then take off and go somewhere else. So if you're a gig economy worker, you've got freedom.
It's going to be huge. That is just, there are so many people who are going to love that because everybody's now, as you say, come out of the office and going, well, actually, if I don't have to be in the office, I can be anywhere. That's amazing, Sally. Oh, I love it. Okay, now talk to me about the book, as well. Because
I wrote the book at the beach. Fabulous. That's what made me think of that. But got to tell you the other thing I'm working on, because, the thing is diversity is the key to everything, right? So the other thing I'm working on is a proposal for an abundant green hydrogen future for the whole of the Caribbean region. And I'm developing, I hope, an artificial reef structure that generates hydrogen from waves and solar and wind, and at the same time provides an environment that makes lobsters and other sea life plentiful and abundant. So it's a combo of conservation and energy generation. That's my other thing.
That is amazing. I ended up, I lived in Jamaica for 3 months myself and absolutely loved the Caribbean. So that's fantastic.
I haven't been yet because I can't travel. So I'm hoping any minute now I can go because I've almost finished writing up this draft. And I'm like, can I come now? Just let me in. I'm vaccinated. Let me in.
I would do anything to go back to Jamaica. So I know you're going to have a great time when you're finally let out. Amazing. All right. So all these things that you're doing and have done, I think we're going to need this whole interview just to hear the huge amount of things that you've done. So let's start off. So I should say to everyone, you're in San Francisco as an Aussie. How long have you been over there?
Been here 12 years.
Right. And do you love it?
Pretty embedded. Pretty embedded. I mean, the first couple I was filming the Inventors, so I was literally half here, half in Sydney, which I loved. I loved that lifestyle.
Yeah.
But then I started taking on more work over here, and now I'm from here. I can do a lot of stuff in Europe and a lot of stuff in Asia. So it's
it's
a good spot to be, and a lot of very open thinkers.
Yeah, much more central. Great. Oh my God, I can't wait to hear all of this story. So take me back to when you were a little girl. Where did you grow up? What sort of a family was it, and what did you think of school?
So I'm the oldest. Grew up in central Queensland mining towns for my childhood, so in the bush.
Yeah.
Which, hence the thick accent, which, you know, when one of my friends and co-judges on the new Inventors, Bernie Hobbs, used to say, "You're trucker Barbie, aren't you? You're trucker Barbie, because you look like Barbie, but you sound like a trucker." And I was like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, well, I have to say 12 years of being in the US doesn't seem to have rubbed off on you at all accent-wise.
Not much, yeah.
Not much.
Well, it's worked a bit over here.
So you grew up as the eldest. Eldest of how many of you were you the eldest of?
There's 4 of us, but my sister was 14 years younger. So for a while there, it was me and my brothers.
Right.
Mining towns in central Queensland, then to Adelaide, then to Sydney. Poppy was born in Sydney.
Right.
We had summers in Thailand because my dad was running an aid project over in Thailand, so the north of Thailand.
So what did your dad do?
He's a mining engineer.
But what do you mean?
He was running a big ADAB project.
Right. How great.
Big mine, lignite mine in the north. Yeah, it was amazing, amazing.
Do you think that gave you a bit of wanderlust?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
And a love of Thai food. Yeah, and then Sydney. Then to Sydney, where I've grown up, you know, kind of on the water, on the harbour.
Right.
And then as an adult, lived at Bondi. And I kind of always need to be near water, which is funny because I grew up in central Queensland. But
well, that might be why.
You know.
So, okay, so talk to me about school. And did you finish year 12? And what did you want to be? And what did you end up doing?
Yeah, so from 5th grade onwards, I was at Skeggs Darlinghurst, which was great. I was a very bullied child.
Oh, no.
I was extraordinarily tall as a young kid. I moved around a lot. I looked very strange. My mum cut my hair. She made my clothes. I looked weird. I am weird, you know. I own it now, but at the time it was difficult. It was a struggle. So they thought maybe I should go to an all-girls school, sent me to Skeggs.
Right.
Ripper of a school, really, in terms of a rounded education. Did a lot of music, did a lot of theatre, did a lot of art.
Right.
Got through it, made it through it, got pretty bullied again, but, you know, it wasn't anybody's fault. It's just I'm a strange person.
You don't seem strange at all. Okay, so what do you do when you left?
Out the other end,
Yeah.
went to Sydney Uni, studied architecture. Actually studied arts for about 3 weeks because I thought I wanted to be an actress.
Right.
But went to audition for Suds at Sydney Uni, quickly realised I didn't want to be an actress. I just like singing.
Right.
So I stuck with being a singer, formed a band, finished architecture, formed my own practice.
Right.
Off you go. You know, that was the beginning
Well, that sounds to me like it might be leading to the first invention. So talk to me about, okay, so you started your own practice straight away.
Yes.
How did the water, what's it called? The water hog? Rainwater HOG.
Oh, right. No, that wasn't the first.
Oh,
so the
okay.
first product I did. So I ran my own practice, and because I was young, I'd worked all through uni, so I had a little bit of a leg up in architecture.
Yep.
Started my own practice, met a girl at a dinner party, Sarentha Harris, who was the editor of Sydney Morning Herald. What's the home bit? You know, the fabulous bit.
Sort of Real Living or one of those kind of, I can't remember what it is anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, so she said, unbelievable, what have you done? You're so young. And I showed her some stuff. And she ran a double page on a house that I'd done.
Wow.
And so I got all this work. It was fantastic. But at the same time, so I built up my practice quickly. But then I got pregnant. I had 7 houses on the boil.
Oh my
had
God.
this baby. Thought I could, my mum kept saying, you can do it all. Wrong, Mum, but whatever. So I had the baby, bad birth, in hospital for a week with people coming in with their plans, putting them on the bloody bed.
And are you a single mum at that stage? Did you have a partner?
No, I got a hubby.
Right.
Got married early, like at 26 and a half.
Yes,
Got married.
Okay.
Was going to go to India and do this internship with this sculptor architect, and instead met Simon and thought, should I leave him? Should I stay?
I'll stay.
I'll stay, and then we'll travel together.
Right, okay. So
then I got pregnant.
Yep, got pregnant. Babies arrived, and you've got this big practice. How did that all?
Yeah. So babies arrived. I've got to practice. It all falls in a heap because I don't realise what I'm getting into. And in the middle of all of that, I moved my business to home, and these people are coming to my house, and the baby is sitting in this horrible high chair, and it was like gunky, and I was on the second floor. So I thought, I really should design a better high chair. And I came up with this sketch that was all about a simple wipe. And, I'm a big Star Wars girl. I'm a big 60s design person, 70s, 60s. And so I came up with this vision of this tulip base, very simple, easy to clean high chair. And that became Nest. I did a sketch.
And I remember I actually remember when it came out because I had young babies around the same time.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful compared to any other high chair around.
Oh, thanks. But it was so functional. Like you couldn't, all the restaurants wanted it because you couldn't trip over the legs because there weren't any. And then you couldn't leave gunk in it because it literally wiped clean. It was the first smooth plastic, single-legged high chair. And that was my first product.
Yes.
That was, I had a business partner, Suze Burns. She'd had a baby around the same time. And we used to put them together. We rotomolded it and we put them together in her garage and sold them all over the world.
Yeah, but talk to me about that process because there's a lot of people that have an idea for a product.
Yes.
But they normally can't create it. I mean, what's it like going into manufacturing?
I'd like to speak to that, actually, because you're right, Jules.
Yeah, I do.
So many people have ideas. And I can't tell you the number of people, especially since I judge on the show, who write to me and say, I've got this amazing idea. I don't want you to copy me, but I'll let you run with it if you sign this non-disclosure. And I write back to them and say, you know what? Everybody has tons of ideas, and an idea is worth zero unless you are going to put some backbone into it and produce it into reality. You know, because people all think they've got this one idea, and the one idea is worth nothing. Just either make it happen or give up hanging on to it and share it with someone who might do something with it. But like an idea is worth nothing. Good on you.
No, very true. It's all about doing it. But I came up with parenting products that I put on the market and they did pretty much nothing at all, even though I thought they were brilliant. So it doesn't always work for people. I'm just really interested about that process. So did you have to raise funds to... Did you have to raise funds to manufacture?
So Suze and I funded it ourselves. So I would possibly go about it a different way now. But both products I've done, I've self-funded. I've grown them organically. I do believe there's huge value in a great hero shot of the product. I always teach this to kids too. An amazing hero shot and a really catchy name that people can run with. So HOG, Nest, whatever it is. Because you need to make it simple for people to pick it up and run with it. You need to make it easy. And then, so I didn't know what I was doing. I went and learnt rotomolding. And because I didn't know about this process, I invented a new finish, which is now standard. So within the rotomolding community, I got a little bit of a name because people are like, oh, who's this architect who's invented this new rotomolding finish? But that's the beauty of coming at something from outside expertise is you're able to push for something that a lot of experts just write off and don't even think of, So it was a pushing process, but we got it done. Siebel Furniture came to us. Maybe Susan. Siebel came to us about 2 years after we launched the Nest, and they said, it's insane how quickly you guys realized this design. They said the fastest we can realize a chair design is 5 years. And we realized that thing in 18 months. 18 months from sketch to final product on the shelf, and we knew nothing about it. We just... kept pushing, didn't take no for an answer. When the insurance company said, we'll never insure a one-legged high chair, I'm like, I finally found someone and I insisted that it was an infinite leg because it's a tulip, right? So count the legs going in all the different directions. And we had to get the CSIRO to test it and all this other stuff to show them it was safe. But, never say no. I'm not good at receiving no. I never have been.
No, I agree with that. And in fact,
work.
There's another great woman I've interviewed, Julie Hirsch, who makes tea and has come up with a brand new way of manufacturing because it couldn't be done before. And it's pretty much talking to what you were just saying. Ignorance is bliss in a lot of ways when you're an inventor or you're trying to forge a new path because you don't know what can't be done because you don't believe, you just... And
it was the same for HOG. I said, I've come up with this new structure. I know it'll work. And all the engineers said, oh, no one's ever done that. That won't work. And, of course, being like, I will speak to the misogyny in Australia, which is half the reason I'm not there, is, when you're in an industry like I am, like building, manufacturing or cars, all industries that I have been very immersed in, it gets to the point where you look at someone and go, the only reason you're not taking what I'm saying seriously is because I'm female and I'm blonde. Like, bugger off. And, as I get older and older, I don't tolerate it at all. In the old days, I used to just keep pushing until they gave up resisting. Now I just, throw a few nasty
Tell them to
words
rack
at them
off.
and keep going.
So, all right, well, talk to me about the hog. What was the idea behind it? Was there a light bulb moment? And well, tell us what it does first.
There was a light bulb for hog. So picture this. I'm doing all these inner city houses for people who have a lot of money, but the properties are tiny. So they're terrace houses, whatever they are, right? Their gardens are beautiful, but they need water. And so drought hits New South Wales in particular. And we go to level 4. So you can't water your plants, you can't do all the stuff. So everybody wants a rainwater tank because we still have rain, but all the rainwater tanks are massive. So when you have this high net worth garden, you don't want a big massive tank. And then you've got to dig it up in order to pipe all the pipes to the tank. So I'm looking at all of this and the cost of 2 people, because you needed 2 people to install the tank. It was such an expensive proposition. And I thought, surely I could come up with a modular tank that's a legal single person carry that would screw together instead of requiring all this specialization. And this would allow my clients to pop it into tiny spots that are unused or put it down the side and still get a wheelbarrow down there, right? So I go to the factory that made the nest. I go to my crusty old engineer, Lothar, and I go, Lothar, I'm back, and I want to do this thing. I want to do this really skinny rectangle tank. And he goes, you can't hold water in a rectangle. And I went, all right, well, I was thinking we'd put a hole through it like a donut, and that would reinforce. That would be like inside-out bracing. And he's like, nah, doesn't work, never been done. And everybody else wrote me off too, but he kept thinking, because he knew I'd come up with this other finish last time, right? So he went, maybe we'll do kiss-offs that kind of, they touch in the middle, but you can't see them. Thank God I didn't do it, mate, because all the other slim wall tanks did. And about 5 years after the big boom in tanks in Australia, all these tanks blew open because the stress tests weren't accurate. But my tank didn't, because that went all the way through. So finally he agreed to do it. We made it. It was more expensive than everyone else's because of the extra plastic, but it's still going strong. Like the original ones that were put in 2005 are still holding water somewhere in Edgecliff, doing their thing,
That's amazing.
So it's worked out really, really well.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. So what do you do when you've invented a chair and now you've invented this? Do you still keep going with the architecture firm?
I did. I only shut it down when I left the country. So when I left to come here, I still was working on a house with multiple level green roofs that was going to recycle all its grey water through the green roofs. I was super stoked. But I left it in the capable hands of my architectural partner, who I begged him to become my partner as I was leaving the country, going, can I just give you this? And it's great, he did a great job. And I don't really miss it because it's kind of funny, Jules, when you think about it. So I've gone from custom design to kind of production design, and now I design systems. So like I've always wanted to have a lot of impact. And I realize now these thinking systems and, things like my book have more impact over more, like I can do educational stuff, I can do corporate stuff, I can affect people much more than I can with just a simple house. So as I get older, I really want to have more impact and have a half-decent legacy,
It sounds to me like you've had quite a lot of impact as it is. Okay, so you've invented these 2. What made you leave Australia? And again, why and what came next?
So funny. We only left for a 2-year. So I woke up one morning, we're living in the eastern suburbs, we've got this great 70s house, I'm happy, right? We're selling hog, we're doing all this stuff. Hubby's in sales for a software company, he's happy too. Kids are little, they're at school. And I suddenly woke up one morning and I thought, this is a great existence, but I can kind of see it like a tunnel. Like nothing's going to change. If we're lucky, we'll have a house at Palm Beach one day and our kids will be in the surf club or something. I'm like, I can see this.
Predictable.
It's great, but it's also so white bread and it's so predictable, and I'm not down, and I kind of think we need to do something different. So I said to the hubby, hey, about this tunnel vision thing, how about we move to the States for 2 years and we have a ski change. So let's go and live in outside of Aspen and let's see if we can sell hog. So at the same time, a lot of American companies were contacting me about Nest and about hog. And it had been, publicized in a lot of magazines and things, especially Nest, but also hog. So I thought, maybe I can do a deal and we can just go over for 2 years and we'll take the kids while they're young. They won't even notice. We'll have fun. And then Design Within Reach, this big furniture company, bought a container load of hogs and then flew me to the US and did a photo shoot for their catalogue, which at the time, it was like the first company that had the most beautiful, thick designer catalogue for online sales. They were really known as a pioneer in like Herman Miller, Eames, you know, all that stuff. So I was mind blown because they didn't have any Aussies furniture designers at all.
In there at all, yeah.
And they decided to, they took on this other thing I designed called the O Moonlight, but then with HOG, they were launching a whole new section called Tools for Living, and HOG was the poster child. So I was like 3 pages of the magazine, this great photo shoot where they tipped buckets of water on my head, and I sat there laughing my face off even though it was really cold. So with that, we literally gave all our stuff away. I packed my art I can't live without into the bag, my ski clothes into the bag, and we left. That much thought. We just went, bam. We got a 2-year visa, off we toffed, not realising we were walking into a recession and we might lose all our money within 2 years and have to kind of stay and work it back. You know, we didn't think about it. And then I kept flying back to the Inventors, so, you know.
And of course, you had that massive market with the US that you could introduce HOG and Nest to.
Because we said this is a niche product, but you can have a niche product in the US because there's such a massive niche. Whereas in Australia, it was so hard to compete with made in China stuff that was thin and it was crap, you know. And I needed a change, and I will say also the tall poppy thing for me. It wore me down. Like, I'm a massive optimist, but the number of colleagues of mine who are like, what makes you think you can design this? And I thought, I can't do this anymore. Like, I just need to be somewhere where people go, what a great idea, instead of cutting you down.
So did you find that? So
I
you
find
went
it all
and
the
did
time
the ski
here.
change.
I love it here. I love it here.
I was going to say, you hear about it all the time that
It's
you can come up with
massive in
ideas and people
California.
go, that's great.
I mean, look, this country has massive issues. I mean, thank God we just got a guilty verdict in the show.
Yes, thank goodness.
Thank God.
Yeah.
There's massive issues, and I'm staggered at the racism. Like, it blows your mind. However, California and the can-do and the idea encouragement and the embrace of new ideas and inventors and invention as kind of part of the way of life. You know, the healthy, I've never been healthier. I've never been more switched on. Like, it's just a joy. And there's so many smart people here that love sharing ideas. And I love shaering ideas. Here we are.
Yeah, you know? That's fantastic. Oh, I feel like I should get myself over there as well.
You might have to pop over for a while.
I would love to. So talk to me about how, I'll talk to you, I just want to go back a little bit to the new Inventors. How did that all come around? Because Christine Kinnenmuth is another of the judges, and she was a client of mine and a good friend many years ago. But how did that come about? Did they just approach you out of the blue?
Well, they approached me to be a contestant with they wanted Nest. And I said, oh, look, you know, I've done HOG. Why don't I bring HOG on? And I came on so excited. I didn't win. I didn't care. I didn't even think you could win. I was just like, yeah, I'm coming. So I came on, and then afterwards they said, we really like you. You've got a lot of knowledge. We'd love to test you as a judge. And I was like, oh, hell yes. And then, this is funny. I don't think I signed anything. I don't think I signed anything, so I can't say this. So I'm going to say it. So then I audition. It goes so well. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited. And then they go, hey, so we can't give you that part. And I was like, wait, what? And the girl goes, the thing is, we need you to be Asian. Like, we need you to be a female inventor. But what we really need is an Asian female inventor. And I went, what? And I went, oh, you know what? I get it. That's fine, whatever. Then they come back 2 weeks later and they go, haven't been able to find one that fit all the other criteria. So do you want to come back?
And you went on there.
I started the show thinking, well, I am that white bread person. Isn't this sad? Like, whatever it is, you know? Yeah, I am blonde and I am white. And I'm pretty middle class. Well, I mean, I grew up in an unusual situation, and I'm an inventor, so everyone's brain is different. But, you know, I do look pretty freaking majority.
Absolutely. Okay, so you're in the States. You've invented those two things. You've got this great deal for distribution. What came next?
So I came to the States. met people. So met people, found a house, did a bit of a tour with the kids. So we went to a big trade show in London, came via San Francisco, met a whole lot of people on the fly because we didn't know anyone over here, met someone who knew about a house, met someone who told us about Marin County where we live now. I'd never even heard of it. It's over the Golden Gate past Sausalito. Who knew? We thought it was Marin, but it's not. It's Marin. So it all kind of started falling. So we whipped across. We literally didn't think about it. We moved here. I finished the house with thrift.
This is a recurring theme I'm noticing.
I'm not a big
Let's just do it.
Not a big planner. I'm a big yes person. So I came over here, finished the house with thrift, got massive orders for HOG, won a whole lot of stuff. We were named like the top 10 green building product, all this stuff. But then the recession hit.
Can I ask, were you applying for those awards or were they just coming to you?
No, they were just coming.
Wow.
I'm not very organised.
Amazing.
But Simon was selling it. He's a great sales guy. So he was out doing shows and things, which was fantastic. I was kind of hectic because I was flying back to Australia to film the show. And I had a lot of speaking gigs in Australia, a lot of MC gigs courtesy of the show, right? So I was only here with the kids and Simon half the time. And also the visa that we had, I wasn't really allowed to work here. So I would come back to Australia. Simon had the visa. The visa blew up 2 years later. There was some drama and then he couldn't get it and he got kept out of the country for 4 months and I had to get the exceptional alien visa. Anyway, finally won the green card lottery. Thank God.
You are an exceptional alien. That's it. You won the lottery because my brother has a green card from the lottery.
Everybody
as well.
wins the lottery. All Aussies. Aussies, if you want to live in the US, do yourself a favour and go in the lottery. Our chances are really good because Australians don't really want to live in the US and there's always a surplus of our allocation within that lottery system. Oceania,
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
We get a certain number. And, most of the Aussies I know over here won the lottery.
Wow, isn't that amazing? I love being able to say that as well.
Me too.
All right. So what happened to shift you from inventing physical products to inventing systems?
Yeah, so while I was doing the show in Australia and doing my products and doing my architecture, I was asked by the Powerhouse Museum if I would set up shop basically in the museum for a week, and they would the Board of Studies would bus students and teachers from all over the country, over the state, into the Powerhouse. Yeah. And I'd talk to them about design process, right? And that's when I started developing adventurous thinking because I had a panic. I said, I don't have a linear process. I'd been taught all through architecture about this idea of linear.
I was going to say, having to teach someone else how your brain works when your brain is firing like that.
And so, but how interesting, because the era we're in right now, I mean, and also what I learned from interviewing consistently innovative people on the show is most people who consistently innovate, they have a brain like mine. It swirls around, and in fact, what it's doing is walking round and round and round, and it's poking and prodding from all these different angles. So what is that
great
process?
description.
And so as I tried to work out what is this kind of tire kicking process, this continually curious poking, you never think you know. You never assume you know. You're constantly testing, right? What is that? And I read The Theory of Multiple Intelligences by Howard Gardner, who's out of Harvard. Right. And I'm like, oh, bam, this is it. And so I started thinking about what is my process, this swirliness. And I developed these 5 lenses that basically allow anybody to poke at a problem from 5 completely different points of view. And that
Can you tell us what they are?
I taught the kids. I said, this is what I do.
Right. How old are your kids, by the way, now?
Oh, my kids are 23 and 21.
Okay, so they are already adventurous thinkers up and out of the nest themselves.
They are.
So, right, so can you tell me a little bit about what those lenses are, or is that your...
Is that a whole
tell us a bit more, because I'm fascinated. Yeah.
I'll tell you what they are. Okay, so I'll tell you, and I'll give you a brief on each of them. So if what's the best way to do it? Negative. So the first lens is negative space. And that's about this idea, negative space. So we always look at positive space. So if we use, here's an example. If we picture ourselves sitting around a campfire, and the campfire is the thing that we're focused on, right? So I'm going to use that for all of the lenses. So negative space, we want to know everything that's there except the campfire. The campfire would be the focus, the positive space. So the people that are around it, the space around it, the physical space, the time that it's not burning, the time that we don't want it to burn, all these aspects of the fire that we don't immediately jump to are the negative
Right.
space issues. Right? So it's everything we don't normally think of, the stuff that we don't want, the time that we don't want. Right. The next lens is thinking sideways. It's like a more proactive version of classic design thinking, which is 30 years old now. So when people say, oh, I'm using design thinking, I'm like, it's 30 years old. Do something.
Well, I haven't heard of it, so tell me a little bit. What's design thinking?
Well, design thinking is a very famous, it's used by a lot of corporations and things now, and essentially it's about empathy. The most famous use of design thinking in corporations is Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, whatever, used to send teams of people in to interview the consumers. So they'd sit there, somebody would observe, somebody would ask questions, they'd watch them for a month. Like the Swiffer is one of the famous IDEO, or somebody rather did it, after watching people clean and going, what are we missing? We need this. So it's about listening to the consumer. So anyone you hear, or the whole lean philosophy, whatever, anyone that says, listen to the consumer, have empathy, that's essentially design thinking. So my sideways lens splits into two parts, and it's understanding your own implicit bias and your own preferences, and then understanding how those cloud your reaction to others. So I use a lot of Myers-Briggs for that, and I use a lot of, what sort of learner, are you visual, are you audio, are you connected, whatever. So it's like the idea of understanding. The third lens is backwards, and backwards is, my passion is that everything should default to the most sustainable thing possible. Backwards thinking is this idea of a closed loop, the idea that, you have something and you use it, but that's only one part of its life. And what happens at the end of its life? Does it upcycle? Does it recycle? Does it downcycle? And then if we understand the time frame in which we want something to exist, whether it's a system or a product, we can now design it to be super efficient and robust and economical by matching. Like, for instance, the iPhone, where the screen on the iPhone is going to crack within 3 years, but the plastic on the iPhone will last 400 years. So really this should be hardened cardboard, or this should be something else, right? Because there's a total disconnect in lifespan.
Right.
Just an example. Right. So then the fourth lens is rethinking. And that's a really interesting one, because that's about what you know well. So what the core value of what you're doing, the core value that you deliver, and then how can we manipulate that in scale to have greater impact? So how can we magnify that? How can we, say, you and I, so we might say the core value of what we're doing is a really interesting, informative conversation. And it's person to person. So we'd say, okay, if we want to magnify that core value, then we want it to now be community to community. So how do we take what you're doing, build a template to now expand, right? So that. And then finally, my final lens, the most fun lens, the lens that I use a lot right now because we're in disruptive times, is parkour. Parkour, which is essentially completely inversion.
Lens.
Complete inversion. It's super high failure rate, but super high success rate if you make it. And it's about inverting everything that's best practice and coming up with new systems. So that's, in a nutshell, that's adventurous thinking. All these different ways. So it's not a 1, 2, 3, here's a result. It's actually activating a completely different mindset that is bearable discomfort, which is entirely outside expertise and knowledge, and entirely in possibility and imagination. And then looking at the connections you get between those two mindsets as innovation. This
is all just music to my ears. I love the sound of all of this. My God, you would be amazing to work with. Okay, so you came up with that idea. What did you do with it?
Yeah, I started teaching the kids that came to the Powerhouse, but more importantly, I started teaching their teachers, because the federal government was then talking about innovation in the curriculum without really giving anyone any clue as to how. And meanwhile, my little bugbear is everybody talks about STEM, and I'm like, you know what? You can push science and technology to the cows come home, but for me, it's basically wrapped up in math 3 ways and a bit of science. Like, if you don't like math, because I don't like math, then you're still excluded. And so I love STEAM, but then people say it's just art, right? So if you think you're not good at art. But what we actually need to be doing is embracing all the people that think differently, bringing them into science, bringing them into math, and going, how would you teach this? How would you, when you look at this and you totally dislike it, what is it you dislike? Let's look into that. Let's explore this other approach. right?
And that marriage of creativity and STEM is just perfect.
I mean, I dropped science in grade 8.
Both groups are missing, that's right, I was going to say.
And yet right
both
now,
kind of...
I'm inventing green hydrogen machines, and I'm a car expert, and I love material sciences, and I design composite materials. Like, I hated science, and I ditched it. I don't know anything. I can find out what I need to know by going to experts, but the type of thinking you need to pioneer new stuff in any area is imagination.
Yeah.
And that's totally inclusive. Idea sharing, imagination, everybody has it. And it's just a matter of giving them the tools. And then, like, why cut people out? Why try and tell them to be interested in science? Why not say, it's fascinating that you're not? So let's look at what you're not interested in, and let's try and find a new nuance into that, you know?
Yeah, I love it.
So I was teaching them in...
So is that what you're doing now? Are you actually... Okay, so what happens? So you created this. What happens next?
I created this. I taught it to some teachers. I came over here. I taught it at Stanford. I still do sometimes, but I don't really like teaching on Zoom, so I've pulled off a bit of that. I designed Epic Resilience, like this book that I wrote in COVID, Epic, what I realized was, as I went into companies, as I helped massive organizations, NASA, people at Stanford, whatever, startups, learn how to do adventurous thinking, I realized that when people are using this bearable discomfort thinking on the daily, they get physically and mentally exhausted. It's exhilarating, but it's exhausting. So I realized I had to back off and to think about how can we make people more resilient so they don't burn out. And that was when I came up with, I know what it is, these quadrants that determine us, that are like our emotional resilience, our physical resilience, our creative and intellectual resilience, are the key to being able to consistently exist in this edgy state, right? So I wrote that book, whipped that up, coming up with a corporate strategy. But meanwhile, because the world is in such massive disruption, finally, a bunch of massive companies have come to me and asked me to help them do purpose-driven strategy. So when you don't have a horizon, when you can't set an obvious goal, what guides you forward? What guides strategy? You know, and essentially, I would argue it's purpose and vision and impact. And if you don't have that level of, whether it's social justice, whatever it is, that's beyond just making money, it's actually how do we make the world better? How do we have impact on the people of this world, the planet, right? If you don't set that now more than ever, what are you doing? So I've just finished coaching a bunch of 30 future leaders at Sony Corporation from all over the world in 3 months of moonshot thinking and purpose strategy. And so now I've kind of moved into helping people set a purpose and then design strategy that's... I do a lot of not-for-profit stuff too, like how you might have a mission statement, but what is the purpose that you can say, it's a one-sentence thing, that is your North Star that will bring so many players you've never thought about to your platform to give you greater impact? Yeah.
Oh, God, you just give me goosebumps almost everything that comes out of your mouth. That is fantastic. I mean, do you have little moments where you pinch yourself and go, how in heaven's name have I got to the stage that NASA, Sony and, you know, these massive organisations are coming to me? Or do you just take it all in your stride and go, I knew this was going to happen in some way or another?
It's funny. I have moments of imposter syndrome when I go, I'm designing this strategy from scratch, and it's like Pepsi. I'm designing the digital strategy for Latin America. Like, do I know what I'm doing? And then I go, no, I do. But I also have depression. I every now and then, maybe twice a year or something, I have deep depression, crazy. And so I have that flip side. I think my condition might be known as hypermania. I'm generally operating at a crazy energy level, and I generally don't slow down. I never look back. Like, I'd actually forgotten that I was a professional windsurfer until somebody reminded me. You know what I mean? I
didn't know. That wasn't in anything I read about you. Professional windsurfer.
You know, what are you going to do? But I never look back. Therefore, I don't ever go, I wish I'd done that. And I never go, oh, was that the right thing to do? I don't. I just go, fuck it. It's done. Oh, sorry. I just go, it's done,
No, you can say fuck it. That's fine. I love you even more for saying it.
Yeah, I'm very big on just move forward, take the plunge, and right now more than ever, everything is disrupting. So for me,
it's
a lot of it is...
It's the perfect opportunity.
I always knew that I've got a lot to give in terms of thinking out this big impact stuff. And I think I've always been a bit discounted because I think everything is very funny, and perhaps I don't come off as serious and intellectual. Certainly have been told that people assume I'm stupid because I laugh a lot and I'm blonde, which I think is their stupidity.
Well, that's I say fantastic, because then they completely underestimate you, and you come in and they go, oh my God, I'm blown away.
Yeah, and again, I will say this, that Americans do not constantly underestimate me. Australians, I believe, continue to underestimate me. And so I have way less corporate clout in Australia than I do here, which I think is hilarious. You know,
isn't that just ridiculous in so many ways?
Yeah.
But you're right. You're right. I mean, so talk to me a little bit about you've had so many businesses and you've done so many things. I know you'll have a story to tell of a time where you thought everything was kind of going pear shaped and what am I going to do? And it actually ends up taking you in a new direction that is fantastic. Have you had that happen a couple of times? Can you share a story?
Recently was the biggest one ever. Biggest ever.
Okay, tell me.
2018, I was doing a lot of speaking. I was doing adventurous thinking. I was at Stanford, whatever. But my kids had left home to go to colleges because that's what they do in the US. They nick off, they leave. And I, some weird reason, we'll never quite understand why, decided there was a homeless kid, and I decided he'd gone to school with my daughter. I decided he should move into our house, even though everybody warned me he was, let's just say, I'm going to say violent. Again, he wasn't violent. He has mental issues.
Right.
He had drug issues. He had a local abusive parent, like all this crap. So I go, you should move into my house. And it was full mental breakdown for me, trying to look after this kid for a year. And so I thought, like, everything was going pear-shaped. I couldn't really do my job properly. I cried all the time. I almost left my family. It was awful. But somehow, I guess I had applied for jobs, but I've never applied for jobs in my life. So I didn't know. Somehow I got a call from someone at Singularity University who are corporate.
We love Singularity
they're
University.
Amazing, right? And they said, hey, we want to interview you for that position you applied for. And I'm literally just like, I did not apply for a position. I worked for myself, whatever. What's the position? They go, design and strategy director or whatever it was. And I'm like, wait, what? And I thought, I haven't worked for anyone for 20 years. And I did 7 interviews. And as I did, I learned more about them. And I'm like, this organization and I need to be together. And
it's incredible.
So I took this job. And for me, like, everybody was like, you don't want to work for anybody else. Oh, no. Best thing in the world. It really honed my corporate strategy, gave me massive credibility when I needed it. I was somehow able to pull myself out of this horrible situation I was in. I've never been so bad mentally. It was just, I was devastated.
But it was all done from the right, you were coming from the right place.
I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all. But my family would punch me in the head for saying that, but I don't. Because I don't think I would be as effective, as thoughtful, as empathetic. I don't think I would have the qualities I have now had I not hit rock bottom in the way that I did, which I really did. To think that I would leave a family, to think that I would, jump off a cliff, whatever. I'm not exaggerating. And so I got this job, and suddenly I'm in like 5 countries a month doing what I love without any of the stress of collecting money or marketing or anything. And Singularity really saved me, and they were great people. Great people.
I was just going to say, the thing that strikes me, and I don't know a lot of them, I know 3 or 4 of them in Australia.
Aussie girls are great.
Absolutely amazing people. Yeah. Like amazing.
Brilliant thinkers. I mean, talk about idea sharing. Imagine being paid to go. I mean, my commute was 2 hours each way, but I didn't care. I bought myself a great car. I was on a salary for the first time in 20 years, and I loved my work. And I traveled to Dubai, and I worked for the secret police, and I did some stuff in Berlin, and I whipped around. And, Singularity was super happy. The clients were happy. And I was just like grateful, happy, thriving after this period of absolute goodness.
Despair.
Amazing. So, yes.
So, but you're talking about in the past, you're not working with Singularity U anymore?
Oh, I do now, but they pushed everybody out onto contract. They, did a whole reshuffle, and they're much more a platform play. I do a lot of stuff with them still. And, I will continue. Like, they ran a whole book launch thing for me, and I love Singularity. I love their mission. I think they have massive impact.
Yes. Well, I've interviewed both Christina Gerakaitis, or Gerakaitis, I think her name is,
Yes.
and Lisa Andrews, who are the co-CEOs here, and
Yes.
Mia Mays is going to set one up in the Bega Valley, and they're all around me, and they are the nicest women.
Like, great. I was going to come out and do they had an annual conference, and I was planning to come out and do it with them, and then, of course, COVID hit and everything went flat.
Yeah, and I couldn't
Hopefully
make
it'll
it this year, but I think if you're going to come over next year, I'll make the effort to go, because I just love everything that they stand
Me
for.
too.
And the idea of changing 1 billion people's lives
Yeah.
is kind of, the way I want to think as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And you find when
So,
you do
Sally,
think that way, when you think about how can I have impact beyond my sphere of people, how can I increase my impact? It's a brilliant way to start every day. You really do work towards something bigger, and you feel so good about what you do. And it also filters out all the crap that some people get obsessed with. Some people get so tied up with caring what other people think or caring about what you get or whatever. But if you've got this mission and you think you're going to have impact at that level, you don't care.
And you can just go on your mission.
Do your thing. Right?
Yeah, blinkers on.
Optimism. I mean, that's my whole purpose statement is I want to spread optimism. I want to activate creative confidence.
Well, and they're all tied in together anyway, I think. Optimism, creative confidence,
of course,
creativity, innovation. It's all about thinking that we can really make a change and do things to help other people.
Yeah, and each person can do it. It's humans.
Yeah, yeah. Sally, you have just been such a delight. I have loved this interview. Thank you so much for agreeing to do it. You're just amazing. If anyone wants to get hold of you or to book you to do courses or to go and do your courses, what's the best way for them to do that?
I've got a website. So Sally Dominguez, Dominguez, woo, Z. There you go. There's some American.
There you are,
Sally Dominguez.
I was going to say.
There's an epic resilience website for this little guy. I need bookshops in Australia to sell it because it's on Amazon, right? Nobody buys Amazon in Australia, so I don't know. We'll work it out.
All right. I'll put my mind to it.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for agreeing to do the interview. I can't wait to share this.
Thank you for having me. It was great. Thanks, Jules. I love your energy.
Absolute. Thank you.